Hey, so in this video I wanted to talk about why so many aspiring developers fail. What do they do wrong and how they can do it the right way, right? So people think that it's very hard to be a developer, that only a few can do it. I disagree. I disagree. And I think that if you're here, you know what I mean by that, that it's very hard to learn how to develop, how to program, how to find a job as a developer. But I think there is a basic formula that we can follow, but there is so much information online that confuses us, right? So I will start with the first reason, in my opinion. The first one is no purpose. You have no purpose. And what I mean by that is, okay, so you want to become a developer. So what do? You learn a programming language, right? Whether it's Java or Python or JavaScript or Kotlin or Node.js or whatever it is, you learn a programming language. But then while you're learning the language, you think, how will I use it? And you have no idea because you don't know how a day-to-day of a developer looks like, right? By the way, I added in the description below, I added a link to a video where I share what developers do on a daily basis. But let's get back to the point. You learn, let's say you start learning Python. You don't know what to do with it. Like you tell a company, okay, I know Python, so they hire you to do what? What do you do with that Python that you know, right? Because every programming language is relatively the same. You have the ifs, you have the variables, you have the for loops, the while loops, the classes, the functions. It's relatively the same. But what I think aspire to be developers fail is at learning a skill, not really a programming language, but a skill. It's like learning Spanish, so you know some words, but you don't know how to connect them together for a proper conversation with the proper grammar, right? This is why many of us cannot learn new languages later in life. Like we learn our native language when we are babies, and then maybe during school we learn one or two other languages because we have a proper frame of support, whether it's a teacher or whatever it is. Okay, so when I say skill, when I say you have no purpose, and when I say skill versus programming language, what I mean by that is think about the products that you see on the day-to-day. Let's say Facebook. Who builds Facebook? How do you build Facebook? So you have the client side, which is the mobile application, right? You have the Android application, iOS application, even the web application, which is the website of Facebook. So here we already discussed three different professions, which is iOS developer, Android developer, web developer, right? Which is front-end developer. So it's already three professions. So in order to be a web developer, you want to learn, for example, JavaScript. In order to be iOS developer, you want to learn Swift. So it's not about the programming language, it's about the profession, it's about the skill that you acquire. Okay, for example, so the iOS, Android, and web developers will communicate with a backend developer, right? That does everything behind the scenes, save everything in a database. So this is another profession. Okay, now in order for the entire process to run smoothly, so let's say you want to deploy the code somewhere, you want to you want to test it, right? You write code and you want to test it. Here we have some more professions, which is like automation QA, which writes scripts to test code, and we have DevOps engineers that runs the pipeline where the code is getting deployed. For example, you have an app, you want it uploaded to the Play Store or App Store. The developer, the DevOps engineers can help us build a pipeline that will upload it to the App Store and Play Store respectively and automatically, right? So we already discussed about like 5 or 6 different professions, and I think when people they attempt to learn a programming language, what they miss is the profession behind it. So this is point number one. Point number two is not sure how to learn and what to learn. And again, there are so many programming languages, so many skills and professions, and you're not sure what to learn and how to learn. You have so many resources online, and most of them are free, which is great. You have 5-hour courses on YouTube that can cover an entire profession, which is amazing. But how do you choose? Because you need to choose carefully, because one, you need to make sure it's the right person that teaches you the correct stuff, the best practices, the industry standards. And because you're not in the industry, you don't know the industry standards, and that's fine. So you need to trust whoever teaches you, right? And what I propose is, first, just learn from many sources, and then you can, let's say you learn from 5 different sources, and whatever they teach you when they teach you the same thing, probably it's this industry standards, right? So I say don't trust them, trust yourself, okay? So this is basically who to trust, how to learn, what to learn. I would also add that how to learn, some people, they watch videos, they like to know the theory behind the scenes, some people learn by doing, and that's fine. I like to learn by doing. Basically, let's say I want to build an app, I'll just search every little component of how to build an app. Let's say I want to have a login screen, so I will literally type in Google how to build a login screen in iOS, and then I'll go part by part. But that doesn't have to be your case. You can learn however you want, but just my 2 cents is to learn from many sources. Now, another point is, some aspiring developers think that people with degrees are superior, and in my experience it might be true and it might not. For example, if you want to go to work for Google, Microsoft, Amazon, the big ones, they will prefer candidates with a higher degree, and that's fine, right? But if you want to go to work for mid-level startups, smaller startups, and what I mean by that is, let's say companies up to 200 people, even 1,000 people, in my experience matter more than your degree, because those smaller companies, they're not like Google. They cannot afford to have you. They basically want you to write as much as possible because they don't have the funds to teach you everything. Google can teach you everything. They have the funds, right? They don't care. But smaller startup, smaller company, they want you to know things in advance, and this is where I think practical experience matter the most, where they want you to get hired and start producing code the first day. Okay, so I wouldn't say that people with degree are superior. And by the way, even Google and Microsoft, if you take a look on their job listings, it will say, even every single listing would say higher degree or equivalent experience. So even the bigger companies in the past 5, 7, 8 years, they don't care much about degrees anymore, which is good. I think people understand that developers are basically the 21st century builders. We just build things. So it's not about the degree, it's about how well we can build things, right? I would also add lack of consistency. This is the next point, lack of consistency. So in order, like every language, everything we learn, we just need to be consistent. Whether it's 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, an hour a day, the longer you study per day, the faster you will achieve your goal. And that's fine if it takes you a month or 6 months. It doesn't matter as long as you're consistent. This is why I think that instead of learning a programming language, which can become tiresome, learn a skill. If you like websites, learn how to build websites. If you like apps, learn how to build apps, whatever it is. If you like IT, learn how to be a DevOps engineer. right? The next point I want to talk about is portfolio. Simply build projects. It's not very difficult. You have so many projects online, even on YouTube. So if you, let's say you want to be an iOS developer, and if you search iOS app tutorial in YouTube, I'm sure that you will find dozens of examples that you can just follow and build your portfolio. The first couple of projects would be maybe copy paste of projects from people on YouTube, and that's fine because this is the first few projects. The next couple of projects you will be able to build on your own because it's repetitive, right? It's the same thing over and over. If you look at all the apps you see in the market, you have the bottom sheet, you have the top thingy, you have a scrollable something, whether it's horizontal or vertical, you have a setting page for the user, you have a menu that comes from left to right. It's the same thing over and over, and it's because there is a standard in the industry. So if you follow those YouTube or whatever it is you take inspiration from or learning from, if you take those projects, add them to your portfolio. Don't be afraid because somebody else built them. As long as you understand what's happening, as long as you rehearsing, that's fine. You can add it to your portfolio. But then after you build 3, 4, 5 different projects using tutorials online, you can build your own projects. And this is where it gets interesting because your style will be very unique to yourself, but still you know all the best industry standards, best practices, everything you need to know to actually pull off and work as a developer in whatever profession you decided, whether it's iOS engineer, Android engineer, web engineer, backend, DevOps, QA engineer. There are so many things you can do, and only just keep being back to my previous point, just keep being consistent with learning, with building a portfolio, and it's not very difficult. Okay, and the next point. Okay, so the next point would be resume. Most of us don't know how to build a resume, and that's fine, especially in tech. Usually you want to have a single page with all the relevant information. So people sometimes put not the correct information, and what I mean by that is they put information that has to do nothing with the job that you want to get hired for, or too much information. What I suggest is just get someone. There are many individuals and companies that will go over your resume for like $50, $100. Just pay them, they will do the hard job, and then you can apply for work more efficiently and get more responses. The last point that I want to talk about, and this is the most, I think, important, right? So let's say you learn a programming language, you learn a profession, you know, let's say Android development now, you know Kotlin, which is the language for Android development, and now you know how to build Android apps. Amazing, right? You build a resume. What now? Do you go to the recruiting websites like Glassdoor and you just apply? There are so many people like you that you will be missed. Like, there are so many like you. Just try to be unique, and in order to be unique, you need to know how to apply for jobs. I have an entire video on how to apply for jobs, which I will put in the description down below. But the overall picture is not too complicated. Yes, in this video I go into depth, but the overall thoughts and strategies is not very complicated. What you need to do, you need to find places you want to work in. You need to find the recruiter or the hiring manager email and contact them directly. Show them that you're interested not in the position, not only in the position, but in the company, in the culture, in what they do. They appreciate it. Whether you do it through the website, because statistics show that only let's say for company X, the 98% of candidates submit through recruiting websites. Only 2% submit through their website, the actual company website, the career section. So you want to be part of the 2%. This is how you increase your chances of getting replied, right? So again, we can go into each bullet point in more depth, much more depth, but the overall idea is don't be afraid if you don't have a degree. Don't be afraid to learn from multiple sources, because you don't know which one is the correct one until you tried many of them. Be consistent. Don't be afraid to build project, whether it's your own or based on other people's projects. Don't be afraid. If you code it, if you are the one that writes it, that's yours, even though you didn't come up with the idea. That's fine. Don't be afraid on how or what to learn. Just start learning. These are my bullet points for how to not make mistakes while you are transitioning or starting your journey into becoming a developer and get your first job, basically. So thank you. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.